Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. And welcome to the Lord's Prayer. It's another fantastic Saturday morning. I'm just admiring the outside, the trees, the leaves are beginning to change. Just ever so grateful this morning for all that the Lord does and continues to do in each and every one of our lives on today. So I've been in the book of Acts, and the Lord blessed me, really blessed me the other night. I was reading Acts 27, and it's when Paul sets out to sail. He sets out to the sea to sail to Rome, right? And in reading Acts 27, they're in a boat, they're on the way to Rome, and I think I'll start with verse 13. I think it's 15, but I'll start with verse 13. Now when the south wind blew gently, supposing that they had obtained their purpose, they weighed anchor and sailed along Crete, close to the shore. But soon a tempestuous wind, called the northeaster, struck down from the land. And when the ship was caught and could not face the wind, we gave way to it and were driven along. I'm going to read it again. So this is Acts 27, verse 13 to 15. Now when the south wind blew gently, supposing that they had obtained their purpose, they weighed anchor and sailed along Crete, close to the shore. But soon a tempestuous wind, called the northeaster, struck down from the land. And when the ship was caught and could not face the wind, we gave way to it and were driven along. Thank God for his word. So when I initially read this, my first thought was, are you driving the ship, or are you being led to shipwreck? Now, when I read it again, I got a whole nother revelation just now. So I'm going to go with the whole other revelation. Now, when the south wind blew gently, supposing that they had obtained their purpose, they weighed anchor and sailed along Crete, close to the shore. But soon a tempestuous wind, called the northeaster, struck down from the land. And when the ship was caught and could not face the wind, we gave way to it and were driven along. My God. Woo! When a lot of us come to Christ, when a lot of us find salvation and we decide, or our heart leads us or our feet lead us, however it happened for you, when you decide, I'm going to give my life to Christ today, many of us, whether it's days, weeks, months, years later, we begin to search for our purpose, right? We want to know, what is our purpose? And I'm not even just talking like kingdom purpose. What is our purpose? A lot of people go through life trying to find out their purpose. But once you come to Christ, you hear people always talking about their purpose, their calling, right? What they're assigned to do, their giftings. You hear about the directions that they're going in and where the Lord is leading them, right? Purpose. These men on this boat, now when the south wind blew gently, that's the Lord calling you. And this is how it just came to me, just revelation just now. That's the Lord calling you, gently, nudging, gently calling, gently whispering, gently sending people that are saying things to you that you're like, okay, I should go to church. I should, give my life to Christ. Gently. Lord don't push you, force you, trip you up. He doesn't. He gently calls you. He draws you. Drawing is a slow process. You ever draw water from a well to fill up something else? Okay? Drawing is a slow process. Supposing that they had obtained their purpose. So let's say you did get your purpose. You figured it out. Boy, you're lucky. You're going to be a preacher. Or you're going to be a prophet to the nations. Oh, you are anointed to sing and destroy yokes. My God. You can pray. Prayer warrior, intercessor. You figured out whatever your purpose is. Oh, you're a missionary. You're going to go and serve and evangelize the world. Whatever it is. You figured out your purpose, right? They weighed anchor and sailed along Crete close to the shore. So now you begin to search and seek how to develop this, right? Maybe you start reading self-help books. I don't know. You start to search out and seek out prophets. You start to, watch and try to study and figure it out and look and research and Google and do all these things on how you should, like if you're called to pastor, how you should pastor, how you should develop your sermon. You start to look and search for all of those things, right? And no one ever tells anyone that's new in faith, no one ever says to them, you are going to go through trials. You are going to go through such hard times where you may feel like giving up. No one ever warns you. No one. Look, at least when you go and you get a loan, there's fine print that says all the stuff that it says. We can go and we can freeze your accounts and we can do all kinds of things. There's no fine print in the kingdom. Nobody tells you life may get so hard, but God. You may get so sick, but God. You may curse God because of all the things that you're going through, but God. No one ever tells you that as you're running up the hill and getting ready to jump into the Father's arms, the hill goes down on the other side. And you may miss the jump, you may trip and fall and roll down the hill and cut yourself up a little bit. But then the hill has a slope at the end where you get up and you dust yourself off, right? But no one ever tells you that. But soon a tempestuous wind called the northeaster struck down from the land. So now you're in your search and you're in your seek. You're like, okay, now I know I'm called to be a pastor. Oh boy, this is great. And you're reading and you're searching out books and you're searching out prophets and you're talking to people and you're getting your research done, right? Sickness falls on you. Cancer. Why, God? Why? Why? Why me? I chose you. Why me? Why am I the one getting sick? I'm serving you. I'm in the church. I'm reading. I'm praying. I'm doing. Why me? Okay? God heals you. Completely heals you. All right? Finances struck down. End up living with family. Have to move out of your house. You and your children and your husband. Or whoever. You and your husband and your children. Whichever. Or I should say your wife and your children. You have to move out. For years you're with them. You can't seem to grasp yourself financially. You think about going into the workplace. Because you're meant to pastor, so now you're a minister and you've given up the job and you're like dedicating your life to it. And you're thinking about going to the workplace, just so you can get some money. Then a door opens. And money begins to come in. You start to thrive. So you move out and you find a place, right? Then a natural disaster happens, an earthquake, or now I'm being really extreme, but an earthquake or a hurricane or something happens, right? And your wife dies or your husband dies or one of your children dies. Why, God? Why would you take one of mine? Why would you take my family from me? Job, hello? Take his whole family from him. Take his whole well-being, his life, his everything. How would you take it from me? I'm serving you. I'm pastoring. I'm in the church. What do you mean? I don't understand how this works. That's your tempestuous wind. And when the ship was caught and could not face the wind, we gave way to it and was driven along. The thing in all of those circumstances, what we like to do in our circumstances is we like to say, why me? Right? And you always hear, why not me? Why me? But really and truly, why not you? If you sold yourself out to Christ, right? I'm going to make a comparison, and I hope it works, but I'll make a comparison. Florence from the Jeffersons dedicated herself to be their housemaid, right? They paid her. They put a roof over her head. They weren't always nice to her, right? Mr. Jefferson wasn't always nice to her. He always cracked jokes on her, and she always cracked jokes back. But they took care of her. They always made sure she had a place to stay. She was taken care of. She had a roof over her head. She had food on the table, But she took care of their home. She took care of their food, like she prepared their food. She took care of that, right? When her son went through his stuff, they helped her out. The point that I'm trying to make is when you take care of your father's business, he will take care of you, right? Notice in all that I was saying, the person kept going. They kept ministering. They kept pastoring, even though the tempestuous wind, the nor'easter, struck and tore him or her up. They kept going. They kept seeking. They kept searching. They kept faith. There are times where you don't keep faith, where you sound, where you're in your flesh, right? And everybody, you're a human. You're human. So your first instinct is to be, why me? Why are you doing this to me? I'm serving your people. I am helping your people. I am doing, but it's not you doing. It's him doing through you. You're just the vessel that he chose. And for your obedience, he has to make sure that your faith remains grounded. He has to make sure that you remain grounded in him. So he allows the enemy to just shake you up a bit. But then notice what the word says. And when the ship was caught and could not face the wind, we gave way to it and were driven along. Let the Lord drive you along. Let him guide you through all it is that you're going through all the turmoil, through all the ups, through all the downs, through all the pain, through it all. Let the Lord lead you. Let him guide you to safety. The end of this chapter, chapter 27, says, the last line, and so it was that all were brought safely to land. Right? The ship might have fallen apart. Your life may be falling apart, but you still lived. They still lived, and they still made it to land. They still made it to safety. They still had themselves. They were still alive and well. The ship was falling apart. The ship was shipwrecked in pieces. But they still had life, that they made it to land safely. You are still alive. God has kept you here. He still has purpose for you. He still has use for you. He still has expectations of you. He still has assignments for you. Lord, use me until I am empty. Pour me out until I run dry before I die. He still has need for you. Do not look at the situation. Do not look at the shipwreck. Do not look at the tumultuous activity going on around you. Remember that God is faithful. Even though in the midst of storms, even though in the midst of times when you are struggling, remember that he is faithful. God will send people your way to speak life into you. He will send people your way that will just deposit in you, whether it's financially or spiritually. He will just set you up with people that will keep you grounded. When you want to give up, when you want to be depressed and you want to run away, God will send people your way, and I promise you, I know from experience. Do not jump overboard. They didn't jump overboard. They didn't plan to escape, right? They stayed the course. The ship started falling apart as the storm hit, but they stayed the course. They let the Lord guide them and lead them. Paul gave them instructions. Lighten the ship. Throw this overboard. Throw this overboard. Maybe we don't need this. Maybe we don't need that. He lightened the ship, and that saved their lives. Maybe you went without food for a period of time. Maybe you got sick. Maybe you don't know what your circumstances are doing for you. Do not jump overboard. Stay the course. It is on purpose. It is intentional. Our God is intentional. I pray that you are encouraged this morning, that God encourages your spirit to stay the course. I pray for strength this morning, that you would lean on your strong tower, who is the Lord our Savior, and He will strengthen you. He would strengthen you in the storm. He's developing you in the storm. He was building your faith in the storm. Be encouraged on today. I pray that our strong tower comes into your home so that you can rest on Him. Rest on Him knowing that He will take care of you. Don't just say He's your provider. Believe it and receive that He's your provider. There were times where I was like, where am I going to get the money? Thousands of dollars in my account the next day. Or not even the next day, like a week later or 2 weeks later. Or I always had food where I thought I didn't have money. Food came. So I didn't worry about money, right? You just kind of worry about gas, but then I had money for gas. Like, it just worked out. God was just so good, so faithful. How could I not be faithful back to Him? Be encouraged this morning. Do not jump overboard. Stay the course. Be encouraged today. Join me next week on the Lord's Prayer at 6 a.m. Same time, same place. Tell somebody.